Hey, kid. You again? A sharp voice rang out from a nearby fruit stand. The owner, a hefty woman, glared at him. I told you to get lost. Standing around here, nobody's going to buy my goods. Alex said nothing, just quietly stood up, holding his bouquet. Arguing would only earn him more curses, or even a shove. He was used to being chased away. To the other vendors, he wasn't a pitiable child, but a jinx who stole their customers. He shuffled his feet to a quieter street corner, his eyes aimlessly watching the cars speed by. A wave of sorrow welled up, but he quickly swallowed his tears. Crying wouldn't help. Dad had always told him to be strong. 2 years ago, he also had a family, a warm home, but the screech of brakes on that rainy night took everything away. His parents died in a tragic accident, leaving Alex alone. His aunt, his only relative, only kept him for a few weeks. She looked at him with fear in her eyes, believing his presence brought bad omens to her family. The day she pressed a few coins into his hand and slammed the door shut, Alex understood he was truly an orphan. In his most desperate and lonely moment, a warm, deep voice spoke. "How much are these flowers?" Alex startled, looking up. In front of him was a well-dressed man who had just stepped out of a sleek car parked by the curb. The orphan boy was so used to head shakes and dismissive waves that this question left him a little bewildered. All of them?" Alex hesitated, pointing to the last bouquet in his hand. "Yes, all of them," Benjamin confirmed. $20, sir." Instead of paying, Benjamin pulled out $100 bill and handed it to the boy. Alex was stunned, disbelieving his eyes. "Sir, I don't have enough change." "No change needed," Benjamin smiled kindly. "Keep it. Consider it payment for your hard work." He placed a business card into Alex's hand. "When you need anything, call me. I believe we will meet again." Benjamin finished speaking, gave a slight nod, then turned and walked back to his car without waiting for a reply. The luxurious car silently rolled away and merged into traffic, disappearing around a corner. Alex stood frozen on the sidewalk, his right hand clutching the still warm bill, his left holding the sturdy business card. He stared into the space where the car had vanished, his mind a jumble. What had just happened? He found a secluded corner, sat down, his back against the cold wall. He looked at the business card again. Benjamin Carter. The name was completely unfamiliar, but the man's face, it lingered in his mind. His gaze, a kind smile beneath which lay a deep sorrow. There was something very familiar about him. And then, a faint image suddenly rushed back. Not a clear memory, just fragments of emotion. The heavy sound of rain, the strong scent of lilies and damp earth at the cemetery, a sea of people dressed in black. Amidst the chaos and grief of that day, he remembered seeing a tall man standing apart from the crowd. He didn't clearly remember his face, but he vividly recalled the way the man looked at him. It wasn't the pitying gaze everyone else gave him. It was a look of shared, silent sorrow. That gaze, was it the same as the man from earlier? This vague coincidence made Alex's heart beat faster. He looked at the business card in his hand again. It was no longer just a promise of help. Now, it felt like a key, the only clue connecting him to his past, to his parents' lives. His bewilderment now transformed into an intense urge. He had to call this number. He had to know who this man, Benjamin Carter, was. That night, in his small rented room, Alex barely slept. He placed the business card on the rickety wooden table beside his bed, looking at it like a treasure. Images of the man at the funeral and the man from that afternoon kept overlapping, making him both hopeful and afraid. The next morning, gathering all his courage, Alex found a public phone booth. His fingers trembled as he dialed each number. After a few rings, The familiar, warm voice answered. I knew you would call, Alex. The statement stunned Alex. It seemed every move he made was anticipated by this man. How? How do you know my name? I know more than that, Benjamin replied, his voice still calm. Where are you? I'll come pick you up. Some things cannot be discussed over the phone. Half an hour later, the sleek black car from yesterday was parked at the street corner where Alex was waiting. The back door opened. Alex hesitated for a second, then stepped in, his heart pounding. He sat on the soft leather seats, feeling as if he were in another world. Benjamin asked nothing further. He just drove in silence, occasionally glancing at Alex in the rearview mirror. The car left the shabby, poor neighborhood, drove through bustling avenues, then turned onto a tree-lined road, leading to a wealthy, secluded residential area. Finally, it stopped in front of a giant, intricately carved iron gate. The gate opened automatically. Behind the gate was a magnificent mansion, surrounded by a carefully manicured garden with a fountain in the center. This opulence didn't overwhelm him, but stirred a faint sadness. It vaguely reminded him of his old home, of the comfortable life he had lost. Though not as grand, his house also once had a garden, where his mother grew the roses he loved. Benjamin parked the car, and he seemed to notice the change in Alex's eyes. It reminds you of home, doesn't it? Alex was startled by the unexpected question. He just nodded slightly. I know you have many questions, Benjamin continued, his voice turning serious. You might be thinking I'm a member of a secret organization, an old friend of your father's here to hand over a vast inheritance. Alex remained silent, but Benjamin had hit a nerve. The truth is a little different, Benjamin said slowly, choosing his words carefully. First, I must be clear. I was not a close friend of your father. I knew him, admired him greatly, but we were not friends. A sense of disappointment crept into Alex's heart. The only connection he had just found suddenly dissolved. So who was this man? Why did he know his name, know about his father, and even appear at the funeral? As if reading Alex's thoughts, Benjamin continued, his voice taking on a solemn tone. I am Benjamin Carter, a representative of the Phoenix Foundation. And this foundation was founded by your father himself, David. This information sent a jolt down Alex's spine. He was utterly stunned. His father? The kind father who used to read him stories every night and taught him how to fly kites was the founder of a charity foundation? It all seemed incredible. The Phoenix Foundation was established with a single purpose, Benjamin explained, which is to support people in difficult circumstances, children who have lost their families, and also talented inventors who lack opportunities to pursue their dreams. It is the legacy, the passion your father wanted to leave for the world. Alex tried to absorb all of this. His head was spinning. A charity foundation. His father was the founder. But a big, painful, and bitter question arose in his mind, making his throat constrict. If my father founded that foundation, Alex whispered, his voice trembling, then why? Why have I had to live on the streets for the past 2 years? Alex's question hung in the silent air of the car. It wasn't an accusation, but a heartfelt cry from a child who had endured too much. Benjamin didn't turn away. He met Alex's gaze, and for the first time the boy saw deep remorse and sadness in the eyes of this powerful man. He sighed softly, a heavy breath. That's a fair question, Alex. And you deserve an answer, Benjamin said, his voice lowering. The truth is, this legacy, from the beginning, was meant for you. He paused, letting the statement sink into Alex's mind. Your father, David, always wanted you to inherit and continue the mission of the Phoenix Foundation. He had plans to slowly guide you as you grew up. But his death was too sudden. Benjamin looked out the window, his voice distant. All the legal procedures to transfer the inheritance to you were not completed. And at that time, you were only 10 years old. A child, legally, cannot run a large and complex organization like this. If your identity were revealed too soon, you would become a target for many malicious people. Alex remained silent, trying to piece everything together. The explanation seemed plausible, but they couldn't soothe the pain of 2 years of wandering. Your father entrusted me with a mission, Benjamin turned back, looking directly into Alex's eyes. Not on paper, but a promise. My job was to find and protect you in secret. I have always been near, watching your every step, ensuring you were safe despite the hardships you faced. I had to wait, he continued, his voice filled with difficulty. Wait for the day you were old enough, strong enough to understand and bear this responsibility. The decision to approach you now is a risky one, but I believe the time has come. He held out his hand, not to command, but as an invitation. I know the past 2 years have been hell for you, Alex. I apologize for not being able to do anything else. But now, you are here, and it's time for you to learn about your true legacy. Alex stepped into the mansion, feeling like he was walking into a dream. His life changed dramatically. In place of the cold street corner was a spacious private room with a comfortable bed and a window overlooking a lush garden. Instead of worn-out clothes were brand-new outfits. Instead of irregular meals were hot dishes served on the table. Benjamin took meticulous care of him. He didn't force him to talk much, just quietly ensured he had everything he needed. He gave him time to adjust, to heal his emotional wounds. Alex began to feel safe, a feeling he had lost long ago. But there was something strange Alex couldn't explain. Occasionally, Benjamin would take him out for walks around the city. When they passed the old street corners where Alex used to sell flowers, he noticed small changes. Mrs. Jenkins, the fruit vendor, who always grumbled and chased him away, now had a new awning and a more spacious cart. An old beggar whom Alex once shared half a loaf of bread with was now wearing a warm coat. Each time Alex pointed these things out, Benjamin would just smile and say, "Perhaps they got lucky." Alex didn't know it wasn't luck. It was Benjamin. He had secretly used the Phoenix Foundation to help those around him, the lives Alex had touched. He wanted to instill in Alex a belief, the belief that kindness still existed, that the world wasn't as cruel as he thought. He wanted him to see the power of the legacy his father left behind, even before he knew how to wield it. However, the warmth Benjamin showed Alex was completely at odds with the atmosphere within his own family. The first dinner at the mansion was an awkward experience. Benjamin's wife, Catherine, was a sophisticated woman. She smiled at Alex, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Their 2 children, Leo, a teenager Alex's age, and his older sister, Sophia, were overtly cold. "So, this is the special guest Dad was talking about?" Leo spoke up, his voice a little mocking as he looked Alex up and down. "Leo, behave yourself," Benjamin said sternly. Catherine put her fork down, looking at her husband. "Benjamin, I think we need to talk. Suddenly bringing a stranger into our home. Do you know what people will think? They'll think this boy has some claim to our family's assets." Alex bowed his head over his plate, feeling like an intruder. He could clearly feel the suspicion and hostility in their eyes. To Benjamin's family, he was not the heir to a noble legacy. He was just a threat, someone who could take what belonged to them. In the magnificent mansion, Alex realized he was still alone. He had a home, but not yet a family. His struggle now was not just to survive, but to gain acceptance. Several months passed. Under Benjamin's care, Alex gradually regained the confidence of a 1-2-year-old boy. He went to school, read books, and learned about the projects the Phoenix Foundation was funding. Gradually, the image of his father in his mind was no longer just the kind father, but also a man of great vision. To help Alex better understand the scope of his legacy, Benjamin decided to take him to the Phoenix Foundation's annual charity gala. This was the biggest event of the year, bringing together the wealthiest and most powerful figures in the city. Alex felt a little out of place in his well-fitting suit. He stood tucked behind Benjamin, overwhelmed by the grand ballroom sparkling with crystal lights and the clinking of champagne glasses. He saw Benjamin's family in the distance. Catherine was socializing with other ladies, while Leo and Sophia stood with their peers, occasionally glancing at him with displeasure. "Don't worry." Benjamin placed a hand on Alex's shoulder, reassuring him. "They are here to support the good things your father started." Just then, the main doors of the ballroom opened. All conversation seemed to cease for a moment. A group of about 10 men, all exuding power and wealth, walked in together. They were like a pack of wolves entering a sheep's feast. Leading them was an older man with silver hair and eyes as sharp as knives. Alex saw Benjamin flinch. The smile on his lips vanished, replaced by an expression of tension and vigilance. "Who are they, sir?" Alex asked curiously. "They look very important." "Are they also friends of my father?" The silver-haired man leading the group walked straight towards them. "Benjamin, old friend," he boomed, but his smile held no friendliness. "Another wonderful evening for the Phoenix Foundation. Truly admirable." Then his gaze stopped on Alex. "And this is?" "I'm Alex," the boy replied politely. "Alex," the man repeated the name, as if tasting it. "I am Sterling. Pleased to meet you." He and the others swept past, leaving a cold atmosphere behind. When they were out of earshot, Alex turned to Benjamin, his eyes still bewildered. "Sir, why?" "No, Alex," Benjamin interrupted, his voice deep and sharp, devoid of any warmth. "They are not friends. They are your father's greatest enemies." Alex was stunned. "Your father, David, was a man of immense integrity," Benjamin explained quickly. "Years ago, he discovered these men, these powerful CEOs, were jointly engaged in illegal business practices, financial fraud, environmental pollution, worker exploitation. Your father gathered evidence and exposed them all to the public." Benjamin looked towards the other group, his eyes blazing. "They lost billions of dollars and were almost ruined because of your father. They hated him to their core. And tonight, their presence here is not for charity. They came here for revenge." Just as Benjamin had predicted, the gala was not just a social event. After a few customary speeches, Sterling, the head of the group of 10 CEOs, stepped onto the stage. He took the microphone, a smile still on his lips but his eyes icy. "Distinguished guests," Sterling began, his voice resonating through the hall. "Tonight, we are here to honor the legacy of an extraordinary man, David, young Alex's father, a brilliant mind." The entire hall listened in silence. Alex felt a surge of pride at hearing his father's name mentioned with respect. But Sterling's next words dashed that pride. "But sometimes, the line between genius and recklessness is very thin," Sterling continued, his voice full of insinuation. "We, who once collaborated with David, have recently uncovered serious irregularities in the Phoenix Foundation's ledgers. Huge sums of money have been transferred to unspecified accounts. Projects reported as successful were, in fact, non-existent." A murmur spread through the hall. Benjamin clenched his fist, his face pale with anger. "He's making it up," he whispered. Sterling held up a stack of documents. "This is the proof. We suspect that the Phoenix Foundation, this perfect charitable facade, is actually just a tool for money laundering. David deceived all of us." That blatant slander was like a knife plunged into Alex's heart. He felt his blood boil. They weren't just attacking an organization. They were trampling on the honor of the father he adored. The suspicious gazes of the crowd, the murmurs beginning to rise, all converged on him. Sterling smirked, savoring the chaos he had created. He looked down at Alex, his voice condescending. "Boy, I'm so sorry you have to hear these things about your father." But Alex didn't let him finish. He didn't shout. Instead, he took a step forward, separating himself from Benjamin, and stood tall. In a clear, unwavering voice, he interrupted. "Your lies will never become truth." The unexpected calm from a 1-2-year-old boy silenced the entire hall. Sterling paused slightly, the smile on his lips stiffening. Alex turned to Benjamin. Their eyes met. It wasn't a plea for help, but an affirmation. "Mr. Benjamin, please show everyone the truth." Benjamin nodded, pride shining in his eyes. He signaled to the technical team. The large screen behind the stage, which had been displaying the foundation's logo, lit up. Alex didn't need to say anything more. He just stood there, silently looking straight at Sterling, letting the evidence speak for itself. A series of old newspaper headlines appeared, one by one, clear and scathing. Each headline was a hammer blow to the reputation of the CEO group. The murmurs in the hall now turned into astonished and indignant whispers, but not aimed at the Phoenix Foundation, but at the accusers. When the screen showed the final piece of evidence, Alex finally spoke, his voice still calm, but each word like a needle piercing Sterling. "My father's foundation was established to correct the wrongs caused by people like you. That's why you hate it. And that's also why it will never fall." No grand accusation was needed. The truth, presented clearly and protected by the quiet courage of a young boy, was the most powerful weapon. The conspiracy of the 10 CEOs dissolved into thin air before hundreds of witnesses. In the stunned silence of the hall, the group of 10 CEOs, their faces pale with humiliation, hastily left like ghosts under everyone's contemptuous gaze. The gala ended in an atmosphere completely different from how it began. As the crowd gradually dispersed, Benjamin's family approached. Alex stood there, still slightly trembling after the confrontation, but his eyes shone with an unusual steadfastness. The first to approach was not Benjamin, but Catherine. She looked at Alex, no longer with the distant, cold expression from before. In her eyes was astonishment, remorse, and above all, admiration. "David," she whispered, her voice a little shaky, "your father would be very proud of you." She gently placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. It was a gesture of acceptance, an unspoken apology. Leo, who had once mocked Alex, now stepped forward, his face a little awkward. He no longer saw Alex as an intruder. "That was really cool," Leo admitted. Sophia, his older sister, also nodded in agreement, a warm smile appearing on her lips for the first time as she looked at him. In that moment, under the crystal lights of the ballroom, Alex felt the invisible wall between him and Benjamin's family completely crumble. They no longer saw him as a threat. They saw David's image in him: courage, integrity, and a kind heart. He had not only protected his father's legacy, but also gained a family. The next day, Benjamin took Alex to the central office of the Phoenix Foundation. It was a stately room, with a large portrait of David hanging on the wall. He smiled as he looked at him. "I told you my role was just as a protector," Benjamin said, his voice full of warmth. "I protected you and protected this legacy, waiting for its true heir. And yesterday, you showed the world that you are completely worthy." He opened his desk drawer and took out an old brass key. "This is the key to your father's office. It hasn't been used since the day he passed." Benjamin placed the key in Alex's palm. "I will always be by your side to advise and help, but from today, The authority to run the foundation belongs to you. Continue your father's mission, Alex. Holding the key, Alex felt the weight of responsibility, but he was not afraid. He looked up at his father's portrait, feeling as if he was smiling at him. Alex's life turned a new page. He didn't just sit in an office and sign papers. He visited the impoverished neighborhoods that the foundation was funding, playing with orphan children. He listened to young inventors present their ideas, his eyes lighting up with interest. He used his father's legacy not as a fortune, but as a tool to sow seeds of hope, just as his father had done. Benjamin's family truly became his family. Dinners were no longer awkward, but filled with laughter. He had found a home, a place where he belonged. Alex had come to understand that the greatest legacy his father left him was not money or power. It was the belief in kindness, the courage to stand up for what is right. And he would dedicate his life to continuing that precious legacy, proving that compassion and integrity have the power to change the world, triumphing over all evil schemes.